director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, so those of you who listen to me each and every morning, you know that on Tuesday mornings, I said Tuesday, everyone, we bring on the one and only Tony D'Angelo, who has rocked the foundation of this governor's office with all of the extra reporting and due diligence and digging that he has done. It's really amazing. Every week he brings it. So I thought what would be kind of a neat idea today is because we're broadcasting on all 5 of the Connecticut Radio Full Power Network stations, including our friends up in Hartford. I thought since you hadn't gotten the chance to actually hear from Tony, and he had a lot of ammunition today to fire away at the governor, I thought we'd bring him on, let him do a quick once-over as far as what, pretty much, could never tell you everything that he's covered so far, but give you a once-over as to what he's about and what he's trying to dig up, and get to some new stuff. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee Elci, and proud to be among everybody, especially in the new places where we've got a bunch of new kids today.
Yeah, man, yeah. So where we're going to be, I think maybe a once-over on sort of what sort of made you start to dig against the governor.
I smelled a rat, and basically I think when you're in the business I'm in, a large part of your being either successful or failing is being able to smell rats. And something didn't look right to me. And I think if you want to go back in history, Lee Elci, I think it all came down to when Candace Owens had mentioned the COVID statistic with the baby in Hartford Hospital who did not die of COVID. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I've been here long enough in Connecticut to know that if something doesn't seem right at the top, it's rotten from the bottom up. So that's kind of what got me started on it.
All right. So you went through the gamut. Give everybody just a quick once-over. You kind of uncovered.
We cover a lot of things. We're sort of in a regular groove on 94.9, covering a lot of what we do is the stuff happening in the state. I try my best to look at it from a business standpoint. I am not partisan. I am fiscally conservative by nature. I've just about voted Republican, but I am not a Republican as such. I am not registered. But I try to look at things from an economic view, and unfortunately, we've got a state that is like putrid economically, and that's really the sad fact of the matter. So when we started with Candace Owens going forward, we started to look at, okay, what else is this governor doing? And for those that haven't been with us, Governor Ned Lamont's wife is an equity partner in a hedge fund partnership known as Oak HCFT, which is in Greenwich, Connecticut. They do startups in financial and technology. It seems innocent enough on its face. We all have different occupations or professions, but we've covered a lot of information. A couple of weeks back we were talking about, the laws even valid because, passing laws while drunk, and are these laws even valid because they were contracted to by people who were, under the influence. But it dawned on me the other day, and of course we've had the marijuana legislation, and this is good, this is equity, we're passing it 50 years directly after when Richard Nixon had the war on drugs. And I thought to myself, I said, well, again, when I can find some airspace to think, it's difficult for me. Some days it's difficult for me to think. Can I go to my local, Liberty Bank or my JPM or, my Wells Fargo or Bank of America and say, I want to open up a bank account for a marijuana business. How about that? And I sit across from the officer and I say, this is what I want to do. And she's going to look at me and say, you can't do that. This is a federally illegal business, Tony. It's just, banks have federal charters. It's just not possible. So we have a state, we have legal marijuana. But the question then becomes, okay, now marijuana is a cash-intensive business. You're not paying with checks and things like that. So how do you bank for marijuana? Well, you've got to get something which is, quote unquote, shall we say, an alternative banking business. In other words, you need somebody to launder the money. Now, Connecticut, which unfortunately is becoming a laughingstock in so many things. This weekend became almost viral with the fact that we have in this state, or actually probably in the history of humankind, the first governor of a state who's effectively become a money launderer. What do I mean by that? Back to Anne Lamott, Oak HCFT. There's a series of portfolio companies. One of the companies that is in this mix is known as, if I'm pronouncing it, the spelling is D-A-M-A, Dama Financial. I'm going to say Dama. I'm going to call it Dama. It could be Dama. Apologies if so. But what they do is they provide, and this is right on the website, mobile-friendly banking services for cannabis-related businesses with partnering financial institutions. Partners help cash-intensive businesses and financial and safety risk and run their businesses more efficiently. Translation, and my, whatever you want to call it, my naivete is like, well, does this mean that people are going to go to these marijuana businesses with guns and bombs and people with machine guns and take the money out and go on the highway, perhaps be, our already horrific public safety issues in the state, we're going to add to it? The answer is, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, the other thing is, and this is the second thing. Now, I've probably been here too long, Lee Elci, but is our Department of Economic Development, our DECD, which has taken $127 million in 4 years, putting us 50th in the state economically? Hey, I can do that with a plug nickel. But are they going to be lending money to these quote-unquote marijuana and equity businesses that are run by the governor in direct conflict of his duties against state statute? Question is, what stops them? Once again, and we go through this all the time, and I say this, to our kids in the East. I don't know whether to laugh, cry, scream, or throw up. This is absolutely unbelievable. So, the people who are going to get these marijuana dispensary licenses, if they need what? It's like a couple $1 million in cash. Then is that that's going to work? Well, they're going to need cash, and they're going to have to run in cash, and they're put at high risk in doing with cash. Because look at it this way: you can't have a full ID for an illegal business. Right. All right. So it's going to be an all cash, just like these other states do the same thing. Like Colorado, it's all cash. So you're talking about ripe with corruption, all kinds of terrible things that could happen. Did the legislature at all take any of this into account, in your mind? Well, I mean, I've got to think not. I did not hear one person saying this. And not only that, when you see something like this that's so blatantly, I'm going to use the term blatantly idiotic. I'm sorry, because that's what it is. When you see, perhaps our kids, our new kids listening, don't know what our Boston Consulting contract with the state had all of our state identities in it. That contract was handed to me by a high-ranking Republican. And, I mean, I told him things that Richard Nixon wouldn't have told Ho Chi Minh. It's like, what are you doing? What are you reading? Any person on any job screwing up to this kind of regularity, not only would you be fired, you'd be thrown in the freeway. I mean, what are you thinking about? So Oh, go ahead. You finish that thought. No, that's my thought. No, okay. So where does that leave us here as far as money goes in the state of Connecticut? So you're bound to get unscrupulous people who are going to be backing these types of businesses if it's an all-cash business. Where's this going to lead us? I mean, we're already looking at a corrupt scenario when it comes to mayor. In my mind, you just mentioned it too. You kind of touched on the idea that people are going to be driving high, people are going to be going to work high, people are going to be living their life. It's going to be constant everywhere. Yeah, and the thing is, we're talking about this over the weekend. Al Capone, yes, that Al Capone in 1924 wanted to run for the mayor of Cicero. He wanted to be the mayor of Cicero, Illinois, where he had his bookmaking and he had his liquor operations and things like that. And he wanted to run as a Democrat. And the Democratic Party at that time said, "Now, Al, you can't do this. I mean, we have to have at least the appearance of legitimacy in government." Now, there are state statutes, and you can read them. They're in the 184s, the 185s, the 186s. I'm of the belief that the governor cannot sign this legislation because there's no firewall here. I mean, I want to start a marijuana business, I go to the DECD. It's like, well, how do I bank? Well, here you go, Damn It Financial. I mean, it's like, what stops this? I mean, it's there's like a whole lot of stuff going on, but it's certainly not for the benefit of the people of the state.
All right, so that's the way it gets traced back to the governor, is that you think somehow the people that he's in business with will be the ones that will be lending the money or giving out the money.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's certainly he's very much in the position of being Joe Kennedy in 1933. Joe Kennedy was involved in the bathtub gin. He was involved in everything illegal. But when Prohibition was repealed in 1933, this was Joe's ascent to, whatever you want to call it, sort of the right hand of FDR. He was 10 steps ahead of everybody for legal liquor production. So the governor's exactly in this place. He effectively makes a financial avenue for him once this legislation is signed. But the guy, and this is what I tell everybody, we talk about this on Tuesdays, the guy is good. He is a wonderful racketeer. I mean, does things that are absolutely positively unbelievable. And nobody picks up on it. You know, they look to say, oh, look at the good work and the thing is, it's getting to the point where, and this often happens, when people racketeer, they think they're untouchable, and sooner or later, it turns out they do something as blatantly obvious as this.
What has to happen, though? I mean, we've talked about this now for months, and you have shed the light on some of this stuff that makes you scratch your head not just once, but twice. And, round and round, we've gone on some of this stuff. Columns have been written. Even the Current has picked it up. You've talked about it a number of different times on different outlets, including 94.9 multiple times. And still crickets, as we've talked about, still crickets out there. It can't be. Is it apathy, Tony? Is it? Do you think he's got?
I think it's more ignorance, Lee Elci. I really do. I think it's more of a thing of people go about their lives, pay the rent, pay the bills, fix the car, and whatever. Until the day happens when they run into something, they're driving home, picking up their kid from school, and they see a firearms chase with a marijuana van or something. Yeah. Then something like that. How did this happen? I think like guys like you and I, the business you're in, the business I'm in, where we have to look at news, we have to look at developments. We may be paying more attention to it, but time has a wonderful coefficient. That's my belief. It's just it happens over the course of time. When somebody goes to do something that they can no longer do, they get religion pretty quickly.
I'll tell you, just in the general sense, since we're talking a lot about marijuana this morning and this whole scenario of becoming legal here in the state of Connecticut, the people that I've had discussions with since this has all come to pass, it's remarkable to me how happy that they are. It's like somehow this amazing gift has been given to them. And it makes me think, how many people out there are smoking pot like on the daily basis? I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your life. And I'm not, getting up on my high horse, wagging my finger at you, because certainly I'm in no position to do that. But is it like 50% maybe of the state of Connecticut? Is it less than that, more than that are smoking pot every day, getting to the point where they're feeling good, if you will? I don't. You got an answer for that? Do you have any idea, Tony?
I would say it's probably half and half. And I mean, I'm like you. You can do whatever you want, but when you start to impact the health and safety of people who are innocent, and when you start to impact upon things and hurt people that really have nothing to do with it, I mean, that's what a law and a legislature and public safety and just common sense and decency is supposed to do. We're eroding that at a incredibly accelerating rate.
It reminds me, in such a bad way, of my college and high school days. Again, I'm not anti any of this. I'm exactly what you said. Whatever you do behind closed doors, it's your business. As long as you don't affect me or somebody else negatively and hurt them or their family negatively, then you should be able to do whatever you want behind closed doors. I'm looking at it from 60,000 feet up. It just reminds me of the days when the most important thing to a percentage of the high school kids or the college kids was where they were going to buy beer. Nothing else meant anything, right? So it doesn't.
Nothing else mattered.
It doesn't, and I feel like there's such a large chunk of this population that this is so important to them. Like this is the greatest thing, the greatest gift they've been given by this government. It's crazy to me.
Well, and I mean, if the rackets weren't going on with Lamont, if there was any honesty and decency and transparency, he would come out and say, look, I want you to know my wife's equity has this particular fund. We're precluded. There's going to be no business with this particular corporation in the state of Connecticut. I don't know. I mean, are we on such a national spiral that at some point we will see national legalized marijuana?
Oh, no question. That's coming.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact of the matter is, it's that it's even if that were the case, I mean, the man is signing legislation that directly increases his own profits. Simple as that, and just difficult.
Well, did you see? I mean, just to keep on the drugs for a second, we can circle back to the money here and wrap it up.
Sure.
But there are states right now. Oregon has it legal. California's looking into it. Connecticut will be right behind it. They're talking now about psychedelics, making them legal. And according to some of the people who are very happy here in the state of Connecticut, they're like, well, that's the next obvious progression from marijuana. Go to marijuana. Now you're talking about legalizing ecstasy and mushrooms. And I mean, Tony, I mean, I said, again, I've said this before, marijuana, you get sooner or later, you'll get all the drugs legal. Prostitution will be legal. It'll be, it'll be the fall of the Roman Empire. Go ahead.
Yeah, you had to be a kid growing up in the 1960s and 1970s, in the city, and you saw kids coming in September, neatly scrubbed, nice skirt, nice pants, haircut, and they started messing around with that stuff. I mean, they were gone by January or February to the mental institution because their brains had been fried on all this other stuff, and we looked at it and said, we don't want that to be us. Now, why is the human physiology, and I'm not an expert in that, different now as opposed to then? And it's wonderful. Answer, it isn't. That's what we're going to be seeing.
A lot of the job of being a legislator is to protect younger people, protect kids. Does any of this protect the kids?
The public interest, yes, absolutely.
Does it do it in your mind? Of course it doesn't.
Believe me, we'd spend 20 minutes on that alone.
All right, give me, you got 2 extra minutes to talk about anything new with the governor, anything that we need to look for here in the last...
Well, we're probably going to have to take this one into next week, and I've got to have a lot of disappointed people out there. We're going to be talking about Unite Us and how financial bearding, and this is something, again, this guy's a master racketeer, how he runs money through different channels so that it doesn't look like he's doing it overtly, but it comes in through the back end, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm not gonna throw that game in the bullpen, but a lot of questions about a lot of different things. I think we'll save that for the future.
Tony, your Twitter following feed is just blowing up. Where can folks follow you to learn more?
Tony D'Angelo 7 on Twitter, and I'm kind of new to it, so please be patient with me.
How'd you get so many followers so fast? Jesus, goodness gracious.
Elci, every dog has his day. I don't know.
Man, all of a sudden I look down and you got thousands and thousands of followers. It's fantastic. Good for you.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, happy to be of service.
All right, Tony, thanks for flipping the days today and coming on and talking to the entire state. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care, kids. Great to be among everybody
today.
My
friend. There you go. All right, Tony D joining us now. Normally he joins me on Tuesday, but he was kind enough to flip the days to come on and talk as we're talking to the entire state today. As the Connecticut Radio Full Power Network, the 4 extra stations up and around Hartford, making it 5 stations, including 94.9, as we're broadcasting today, because normal Hartford host Gary Byron, I don't know what he's doing today. Took the day off. He's got something going. Maybe he's doing something because he's running for